Hello friends and welcome to Tutorials Point. Are there situations which we all encounter wherein these chills run down our spines, or we have butterflies in our stomach and we feel so nervous, our knees wobble, right? This happens, isn't it? And this especially affects us if in case we are in a situation wherein we have to address people, or probably we are in a leadership position, or we are attempting something on a stage which is very new to us, isn't it? So in this video, we will discover as to what is it that causes our knees to wobble, or butterflies to run in our stomach, or for that reason chills to run down our spine. And once we understand, we will see as to how can we overcome these situations and how can we successfully overcome fear to basically speak and communicate fearlessly, right? Let's go ahead. Okay, so first of all, the very first step to understand this fear which actually haunts us so much is to recognize and understand what is it that creates fear in you, right? Now the reasons could range from any unpleasant situation or incident during your childhood, or any imaginary self-constructed thought which usually is what if, right? And then work on it accordingly, right? So anything that we need to overcome, right, be it any illness, or be it any shortcoming, or be it any any particular thing which impedes our growth, it is very important that we first know as to what is it, what is the root cause, right? So now if you self-reflect during these situations when we are so strangled and we are so stranded by fear that we even forget or even cannot express ourselves. So what is it that is actually causing the fear? Is it probably some childhood fear which we still carry, or is it some incident which happened in the past and still that memory is still fresh in our mind? Let's take an example. And then once I was just walking on the road with my one of my friends, and there was this ramp wherein I slipped, and after that, whenever I actually cross that ramp, I still have that fear, and I just walk so carefully, right? Because even if that time I slipped, but that memory still resists there, that memory still resides in my brain, right? So in a similar way, any situation that we've had in the past, or especially during our childhood, it remains fresh in our mind, and that fear which was there, that actually still lasts, right? So what is it that is actually stopping you from communicating or from expressing? Was it that during your childhood you probably were, if you would say something, children around would laugh at you? Was it that? Or for that matter, is this what if people laugh at me? What if I go wrong? What if everyone finds me an idiot, So are all these things which actually haunt us? So once you know what is it that is actually creating this fear in your mind, it is then only that you can actually work on it, right? So obviously, to treat any ailment, to treat any disease, it is first important to diagnose it, isn't it? So until and unless any disease is diagnosed, can it be treated? Definitely not, right? So same goes for fear. And let me tell you, this fear is such a thing which actually especially affects us and grips us so tight whenever we are speaking in public, right? So if you actually want to be a good communicator, first of all, we need to know and understand the fear which stops us from communicating, right? So first to know it, and then accordingly work on it. Okay, now first you diagnose, right? Now you recognize as to why is it that you feel that kind of discomfort, or you feel fearful while you're talking to people or communicating, right? Or for that matter, talking to strangers. So once we start understanding, accepting and laughing at our own weaknesses, the fear of people around laughing at them automatically vanishes. Yes, that is true. That is very true, because there's this very big question in our mind, what if, right? So once that what if vanishes, then there is no hindrance between you and your expression and communication, isn't it? So how do we address this what if? Now, well, do you remember, do you recall any such situation in your childhood, or currently, at your workplace, or maybe with your friends, or maybe with your, or maybe at your home? There are these situations wherein there's this one person sitting in the group, and everyone else is busy laughing at that or making mockery of that particular one person. And in that situation, till the time that one person is trying to defend himself or herself, till that time it just grows, right? So the moment you laugh, you also start laughing at yourself, that fear completely vanishes, right? Yes, whatever I said was funny, or whatever I said was wrong, oh, that was blunderous, so you also start to laugh at yourself, right? Or for that matter, you learn to accept yourself. So the moment you learn to accept yourself fully and completely with whatever you are, no matter how you are, right? That very moment, that fear of judgment actually vanishes, right? Because this what if is nothing but fear of judgment, that fear that a fear that people around me would judge me, right? So the moment you accept yourself, yes, yeah, this is how I am, yeah, this is how I look, or this is how I speak, or this is how much I know, yes, this is who I am, right? So the moment you start to accept and respect yourself for who or whatever you are, that very moment, that fear of judgment just vanishes. So it is very, very important to self introspect, to self respect, to actually be a good communicator. Because if our mind is full of fears, if it is full of judgments for our own self, right, forget about the people around, for our own self, we cannot be a good communicator. So very, very important aspect of learning good communication skills is that you learn to accept yourself, because it comes from inside. It's not something superficial which you can gloss on the top, right? Okay, then the next very step, the moment you you recognized that okay, this is the kind of fear which actually, or this is the memory which probably causes me to think this way, or this was the incident because of which I feel a particular or a certain way. Now how do you go ahead and improve it, right? So start taking small baby steps instead of a very big one, which might be overwhelming for us, right? So how are you going to, how now that you recognize, now that I recognize, now I know that this is my shortcoming, this is what actually stops me from probably achieving a particular target, or for that matter being a good communicator. Now how am I going to work at it? Is it that if I want to be a public speaker, right, let us assume I want to be a public speaker, and I feel that nervousness of, or that fear of judgment, what if, right, what if people are going to laugh at me, and all of that, I feel that nervousness. Would it be a wise idea that I directly go and just to overcome that fear, I directly go and start addressing a huge crowd? Definitely not, right? So I might want to start with very, very small steps. For example, if maybe I have a group of 10 people or 5 or 6 people, I sit there and that is where I start. So the moment I start taking baby steps instead of one huge big step, which might be inundating and might be overwhelming for me, definitely that might not as well help me. Rather, it might reinforce my fear, right? So the moment you recognize your shortcomings, start taking small baby steps to overcome it, and slowly and steadily, within no time, you will realize, or you will actually see that you have probably grown up from that shortcoming way too much, right? You have evolved a lot, right? So start taking baby steps instead of taking one big or maybe a huge step at a single time, right? Okay, now this is something which, knowingly or unknowingly we all carry. We might not realize or we might not consciously be aware of it, but a lot of our fears, or for that matter, I would say most of our fears come from our childhood. Yes, there are situations in our childhood which, maybe because of which there's a particular fear, and we carry it for life. Now, would it be a good idea to be a captive of your past? Not really. Do you think if we actually, still live in that, probably that fear of a particular incident which happened long ago or many years back, would it be a good idea for me to still, let myself be strangled in that fear, or let myself be chained in that fear? Not really, right? So if I do not overcome that, or if I do not move ahead from that, I definitely cannot create a new self of my own, or I cannot grow, right? So for us to grow, no matter what field that you are in, it is very, very important that we try and overcome any fear or any particular bad memories which we carry from our childhood, and let them not be an impediment in our present. Otherwise, definitely we cannot grow, right? So in short, learn to live in the present. Only then can you actually overcome all your fears, and you can turn very, very confident and completely fearless and move ahead and forge ahead, right? Okay, now fear of failure needs to be handled appropriately with a plan of action without getting gripped into it. Yes, let us assume that we probably are, maybe we're going to start a new venture altogether. So definitely a lot goes behind, or a lot goes for a toss when there's a lot which we already have maybe invested in it, and now we are going to start this new venture. Now, how do we actually, and definitely at that very time there's one fleeting moment of fear of failure, isn't it? Now, how do we overcome that? Or for that matter, let us assume I have to go and now I've just maybe attained a leadership position, and now I have to address my subordinates, and there definitely would be that fleeting moment of fear, right? Of that fear of failure. Now, how do we prepare ourselves for that? Well, a very, very important thing, or a start point to actually overcome that fear of failure, would be plan of action, which means planning. So the moment you have plan, now there are plan A, if plan A doesn't work, then you have plan B, and if plan B also doesn't work, you have plan C, and then you have one by one, step by step, everything aligned and timetabled for you to do. And so what happens is, if you have actually pre-planned everything, then that chances of getting into that failure definitely reduce a lot, right? So now this can only happen if, instead of getting gripped or getting completely consumed and engrossed in that fear of failure, we leave that aside for some time, and with completely a free mind, we start to plan certain things, right? So instead of delving in that fear of failure, it would be definitely a good step to avoid that failure from happening. It would be a good step to plan, and from there go ahead, right? Because then what happens is, the chance of we failing definitely decreases a lot, and once that decreases, definitely then the moment you are able to achieve even some amount of success in any particular thing, we are encouraged. That is how we human minds are. We are encouraged to forge ahead, with a greater kind of enthusiasm. So that can only happen if your base is correct, which means your foundation is correct, which means you've planned things such that even if one thing doesn't work, you have second thing already there for you to maybe just go ahead, right? Okay, so last but not the least, as we always conclude it with a quote, a fearless mind and heart can communicate fearlessly. Yes, that is true. So as I think in all my communication videos, I've already told you, it's not about certain tips and tricks that you can just pick up and, on the superficially you can just adapt them. That's not the case. So communication is actually something that comes only when you feel, right? So it is your inside out. You might feel that you can fake it, but no, then you cannot get, you'll fail to impress the people, or you'll fail to get a grip or form that connect, or actually you will fail to communicate, because communication in itself means forming a connect, right? So until and unless your heart and your mind is fearless, it is only then that you can actually communicate fearlessly, right? So, well, know your fear to actually completely eradicate it, right? So friends, this was all about another a video which was on communication. We will see you again in the next video. Till that time, keep learning with Tutorials Point and Tutorix. Have a good day.